Well, this is amazing because I'm having Amber Lia back on my podcast, but not alone, with her son. So maybe you were with us when I had Amber on last with her with her devotional. It was new then, still new to you if you haven't gotten it yet. Untriggered, 60 Days of Transformation for moms who struggle with anger. And Amber has 4 boys, and one of those boys is with us today. His name is Ollie, and they have a new devotional called You Are Seen 90 Devotions to Encourage Stressed Teens. Let me read you an endorsement from this book. It says, like many teenagers, Ollie Lia had his share of dark times. He has struggled with depression, anxiety, the loneliness of being the new kid, but he's chosen to use those difficulties as a platform for encouraging others. And do you know who said that endorsement? I was like, what? I have never even had any of my books endorsed by Jim Daly, president of Focus on the Family. So,
Right?
Ollie, how does it feel to be a up and coming author?
It feels amazing. It is such a blessing from the Lord, and I'm so excited that my journey starts with my mama. It's awesome.
That's so cool. Every mama's heart is just like, oh, that's so. So bring us there. Here you are, you're writing from this place of peace. You're writing from this place of like, this is how I found my calm. Take us back. What was happening in your life when you were feeling depressed and anxious? Because I know a lot of us parents, we have a son or a daughter who's there right now.
100%. Yeah, my story with my struggle really started freshman year of high school. It was brand new. High school. It's the big high school, first of all.
Yeah.
But I was just coming off of homeschooling for a couple years. We had just moved to a new state, so everything was new. I remember stepping into school, and the only person I knew was my neighbor, and I had known what she looked like, and that was it. And she drove me to school one day, and that was about it. So yeah, so walking into school was very nervous. Definitely felt like I was completely alone. It was very, very scary. And not long after that, I kind of just struggled making friends, struggled in that area. And, I just kind of really started to get to me with stress, and, stressing over schoolwork. And
Yeah.
I like to say I'm a perfectionist because I like to get things done. I like to get them done now. I don't like to think of them. I don't like to precrastinate or procrastinate.
No
I don't like to
procrastinating at
wait.
all.
No. So yeah. So I like to get it done now. And so those things started stressing me out, and it started getting really bad where I would start getting really anxious. And then it just hit a point where I just plateaued and I just started feeling nothing, and I
Mm.
started feeling depressed. And so that whole thing really kicked off my freshman year of high school, going into my sophomore year of high school. It was a really long journey, and it was weird because I wasn't myself. And it was this
Mm.
place of trying to figure out where did I go. And it wasn't an answer that I necessarily had on my own. I had to have help to find that. And that's when Mama came in, and she helped me and grabbed Jesus's hand and helped me hold on to it. And through there, we've been able to surround ourselves in scripture and prayer and worship, and as well as some practical techniques that have
Mm.
been able to really help me just focus my mind, like breathing, and things like that. And here I am. I want to write my story, write what the Lord has done in my life, because I know that there are other kids out there that don't have a mama that can join them or help them learn who Jesus is. And I want this to be an opportunity for kids who are struggling to have some type of research or some type of resource, because they are looking,
Yes.
and it's not going to be found in, they're not looking in books or movies or shows. They're looking in sex, they're looking in drugs, they're looking in swearing, being the cool kid, they're looking in all these things. They're trying to find some type of escape, and I've found it, and it's through Jesus.
We're going to go back to some of those techniques, but before that, Amber, what were you like when he's going through that hard time in your freshman year, right? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
And so I want to go there. And then I really want to talk about like, how do you bridge that where your teenager does respond to you? Here he's saying it was good that my mom talked to me, but a lot of teens, they're like, stop talking to me, mama, so
Yeah.
what were you thinking and how did you guys start communicating about it?
Well, when Oliver was younger, I would pick up on that sometimes when we were anticipating something coming up, like whether it
Yeah.
was an event or a vacation, something good or something that was stressful, he would start to have some of those tendencies of a little bit of anxiety. And I think that there's certain times in our lives, whether their hormones are changing, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot going on chemically in their bodies. A big transition, like what Ollie experienced, different seasons of life can just exacerbate and magnify
Yeah.
some of the normal anxieties that we feel just in our lives. And so for me to start seeing this become bigger and bigger and bigger for Ollie, first of all, as a parent, you feel kind of helpless, like you're not sure what's going on. You don't really know what to do. And yet we knew that it was probably going to be a combination of things that we needed to navigate and walk through together. And so we just started leaning in, but throughout all of the different options, it was some counseling, it was some supplements, it was medication, it was, leaning in at church and with youth group and in our own family time, discipling our kids. But ultimately, we had to cling to the truth that God saw Ollie and he saw me. And God knew what was going on, even when I didn't, even when Ollie didn't. And that he was not an author of confusion, that he was going to give us a path forward and that we were going to hang on to him
Yeah.
for dear life. And that's what we continue to do. But it really starts with, I think, just opening up some conversations with empathy. And that's like, I think the biggest piece for me as a parent is navigating the beginning stages of this is really coming to Oliver, because sometimes I would just get really frustrated, and I learned pretty quickly that wasn't the path that I needed to instead listen to him. What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? And even to ask him, like, how can I help? And he wouldn't always know, but just knowing that I was there for him counted more than any of the other things we actually did, was just opening up that communication. I see you. I understand that you're hurting, and I'm here for you.
And this was not a quick fix because we're talking about this is a year. This is more than a year. How, Ollie, did it start to turn for you? How would you, to someone who's kind of in it, 9 months into it and just like, my life's always going to be this way. What would you say?
Yeah. So we definitely started with a little bit of like counseling and starting to be able to give myself an opportunity to kind of talk about what was going on. I found that the best counselors were my parents. It didn't start that way. I definitely had my own little way of trying to corner myself in my room and just kind of not talk about things.
Yeah.
I would go on, I mean, there were multiple days where I'd go on just kind of trying to avoid, just kind of being quiet, being dismissive. And like my mom said, she was able to really just start conversation with me. And like I wasn't even trying to, but all of a sudden I just spilled it all out.
Mm.
Everything that I was keeping in, and it can be the little things from, little tests that were coming up, or a conversation I had with someone in my class, or maybe it's the big things like, college or something crazy like that coming up in the future. I was able to talk about those things with my mom, and it gave me an opportunity through that relationship that I had with my mom, that I was able to kind of start moving towards healing.
Wow. It's so good. It's like when it's all hidden, it just grows.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
in you talking about it, it seemed, and then your mom was empathetic and all those things. One of the techniques you talk about is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can you explain what that is? And this is something we might want to try with our teens.
Yeah, I actually will take this. So, what we felt really strongly that it was important to have some of the people that are professionally trained in dealing with stress and anxiety to speak into some practical ways that we can employ methods to help us with our anxiety. And so, what we've done is we've asked two of our friends that are licensed counselors, doctors, to give us little segments throughout the book, and they give us a number of different techniques. But even I think one of the best things is that when you're feeling very anxious, like when Oliver would feel anxious, it's kind of like, how do you stop that spiral? How do you stop
Yes.
that spin? It's kind of like a tornado,
Yeah.
and as a parent, you're not even sure, like, how do I even break through? So to just stop and be like, okay, we talk a lot about just containment, and stopping and taking a breath, counting backwards, imagining that you're taking all that anxiety, all that tornado, putting it inside like a treasure chest or a box and containing it for a minute, counting backwards, thinking through, okay, let me think of one thing I can just be thankful for in the middle of
Yeah.
this mess just from the last 24 hours. So it's really like, okay, stop, count backwards, breathe, take all those worries, cares, the bullying, whatever it is,
Yeah.
put it in a box, not to hide it away forever and to not deal with it, but to actually manage it at an appropriate time in the right space when we're outside of the swirly conflict moment so that we can unpack those things one at a time, slowly but surely, scripturally. So, giving all of her those kinds of tools, because sometimes, you can speak to this, but you'd be in that place where it's just like heightened emotion, panic, stress, and it's very difficult to contain. And it doesn't happen even the first few times you try to practice it, but being able to go to Ollie and say, okay, let's just count backwards for a minute. Feel the chair under your legs, just get present, because sometimes you go to the future too far.
Yeah.
Your head is in the middle of the storm, and so to just ground yourself a little bit, just to get back into your body almost,
Yes.
and to be able to say, okay, let's just feel the chair under your legs, breathe for a second. And he does this for me now too, which is really cool, because he'll see me start to spin and be like, okay, mom, let's just take a second, breathe.
Right. Right.
And then we'll pray real quick and we'll get into it. So it takes practice to do some of these
Yeah.
things, but the book does have those practical pieces in it too, to help us, right in the thick of the storm. What do I do right now?
Are these things that you can do at school, Ollie?
Yes, they are. So I feel like everything we've kind of talked about has been, about being able to go to my mom and have help, right? So what do you do when you're on your own? You're at school, you're in a classroom
Yeah.
setting, parents at work, you're on your own. That was the biggest thing for me. Okay. Because I was like, yes, like my mom is great. My mom is helping me through all these things. I love being able to have conversation with her. Take away the conversation aspect. How can you have this peace in a time of
Yes.
high stress, high anxiety? The answer straight up is Jesus. You cannot survive on your own without taking up the armor of Christ. And you have to take up your armor daily, take up your cross daily, and walk and know that the Lord is going to protect you and be with you. And there were moments where I had to memorize scripture. It was the first thing I had on my phone in the morning, first thing I woke up. I would memorize scripture in my head. And whenever I started to get really stressed out and freaked out about it, I would use my breathing technique. I used this breathing technique called the box method. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4, go out for 4, hold it for 4. And then I would just pray. And I'd say, I'd just be completely open to Jesus. I'd say, Jesus, right now I'm stressed about this test that's coming
Yeah.
up. Lord, I really don't know what to do. I'm feeling very fast. My heartbeat is beating and I'm stressed and I'm anxious and I don't know what to do. But Lord, your word says that you hear me in times of trouble. And I ask that you would hear me now and give me peace. Amen. And so there were multiple times where I
Yes.
felt that, and I just had to take a moment where, whether I have to close my eyes and put my head down for a second or raise my hand and ask my teacher, hey, can I just take a second outside the door for a little bit? It was a way for me to gather myself, to focus on the present, look at what clothes I was wearing, look at where my feet were standing, smell what type of smells I was smelling. Those were the things that just helped me the most because I got so lost in my mind up here, right?
Yeah.
When I needed to realize where I was. And that helped me bring myself back, collect myself, and take things one thing at a
And
time.
I have to say, Arlene, too, just a couple weeks ago, I got a text message. So this is something parents can do too. Is like we have I know not every family is the same, but Oliver has a phone and he's able to text me and communicate. And I would always tell him, first of all, there's no judgment. Like I want him to always know I'm empathetic. When he comes to me with his anxiety, his stress, his depression, his fears, he's going to get someone that welcomes him and says, okay, I hear you. I see you. Yes, I understand why you're feeling that way. And I'm here. And so just letting kids know that consistently, they may even give you a reproof and be like, whatever, mom, or you think they're ignoring you, but I just want to encourage you, they're not. Like it matters that you breathe life into them and say those things. So I would tell him, like, just text me. Like if you're able to and you're not with me, send a text or send a text to a friend, a trusted friend. Like I think it's very important for teens to surround themselves with healthy people
Yeah.
and to be able to have that commitment like, hey, I'm going to message you, or maybe it's a sibling. And so a couple weeks ago, he messages me, every so often now, and he'll say, Mom, I'm starting to feel anxious. Let me just kind of map out for you what the day's plan is. Because for him, anticipation is one of those things that creates the anxiety, like what's coming next. And so he just kind of wrote it out. Okay, I'm just going to meditate on this verse, Mom. I'm saying a prayer right now, but here's what's going to happen. And it just gave him kind of that release, and I was like, okay, this is
Yes.
good. Yes, you just do the next right thing. You're doing a good job, and I'm praying for you,
I
and he
think
got
it
through
was funny. Yeah.
it.
No, that's what was funny is I feel like I got through it on my own without having. I was
Yeah.
texting her, but
Yeah.
I didn't get a response back. I was right away. I was talking to myself in a way
Yes.
where I
Yes.
was like, okay, I have this first, this is next, this is third.
Yes.
Wait a second. If I just take this one thing at a time, yeah, I'm good. I
I
got it.
can do
And
this.
so
Yes.
that's how it
Isn't
went.
that it? And then you're learning. It's like you're
Right.
learning how to do this
Right.
yourself.
Exactly.
How there are so many kids, I feel like, who are struggling with this perfectionism. I think way more than when your mom and I were teenagers. So why, first of all, why do you think that is, that so many kids around you are anxious and kind of in this I gotta do it perfect mode? What do you think, Ollie?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has things that they want in life, right? There's things like you want to be, you want to have the top grades, you want to be the strongest athlete in the weight room, maybe you want to have the highest, video game rank. There are things that, kids my age, people, things that we want, things that we go after. And I'd say that that perfectionist mindset um, can honestly come from comparing ourselves to others and comparing ourselves to things that aren't necessarily what the Lord has in sight for us. And the reason I say that is because I kind of had my perfectionist mindset from just wanting to be the number one person in my school and get that valedictorian, whatever, at the end of high school. And I will say it, I did it. Like I was number one, I was top five in my school for freshman, sophomore, and junior year, but it had a really big cost on me and it hurt me a
Mm,
lot more than it did
Yeah.
the reward. And
mm,
it was because I had to give so much into it that I was giving from things that I didn't even have. And so it was
wow.
so, so difficult because in this world, you can't be perfect. There's not one person on this world that is perfect or that is a perfect example except Jesus Christ himself. And when I kind of started to realize, okay, I'm not going to be perfect, I also realized it's okay to mess up.
Yeah.
And that's what else really helps me because I also learned that I don't have to make mistakes and just sit there and feel the guilt and the shame. But when I surround myself with people that love me, when I think about, okay, this is what the Lord's blessed me with, this is what I'm thankful for, that perfectionist mindset kind of faded. And I was okay if things didn't go how I wanted them to because I knew that God was directing my steps. I knew that He had a path for me that I didn't maybe know at the time. But I'll tell you what, when I continued to trust the Lord in faith, man, it has worked out. And I mean, I genuinely I don't want to toot my horn, but look at me now. I am, I'm a testimony. I'm healed. I'm definitely not perfect and being able to not be depressed or stressed or anxious, but I have the methods, I have help, I know what to do, and more importantly, I'm surrounded by people and Jesus who I know will help me.
I'm hearing that the support system, the techniques, the going to God first, and the realizing, oh, my identity isn't bound up in this me
Right.
being like the most best student of all time ever, but it's
Right.
in like, oh, I'm going to do my best. And then, hey, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Is that about right?
100%. And it's total, you got to pray about it and say like,
Mhm.
God, I surrender this to you. This is
Yeah.
this would be great, but I know that you have a better
Yeah.
plan for me in
Yeah.
store.
And I think too, as teens, take God's word to heart. That's what shifts our perspectives. It shifts us away from anxiety,
Yes.
perfectionism, comparison. One of our verses that we include in our devotional is Ephesians 2:10. It says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." And so, for teenagers and even parents to know, like the parenting and the being the kid, both of those are part of God's plan. And He knows the steps, He knows where He's leading you, He's got you. You don't need to stress out about the future because God has it all in hand and He has you. And so that brings, I think, a lot of comfort just reminding our kids, reminding ourselves at the end of the day, it's not about any of us and all of our efforts. It's a real big comfort to know that God has created us. He knows the path we're on. He knows the future. He holds it. He is good, and it's all going to be okay. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. You talk about one of your chapters, which I love. God can heal all your mental, physical, and spiritual wounds. Talk about your rotator cuff in your shoulder.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
know a lot of
So,
people who listen, they have an injury and it's like, oh, it's such
yes.
a big deal in high school.
Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah.
So my injury, it really is my testimony. My rotator cuff had torn going into my freshman year of high school. So I was in eighth grade. It was the summer of eighth grade. We were about to move to Tennessee. I played for a travel team in California when I played baseball, and something my coach put so much emphasis on was, are you going to make the varsity baseball team? Are you going to be able to make the high school team? Are you going to be able to make it? So I have this tear in my shoulder where I've had an MRI and there are pictures of it visibly being torn. It literally looks like a Kleenex tissue that you had
Oh
like
no.
ripped. And yeah, it was disgusting. I know, it was awful. And I was like, I'm never going to be able to throw a baseball again. And it got to the point where I would pick up things, I immediately would drop them. It was the most painful thing I have really ever been through. Me and mom, I would say that this is how I really realized, man, the power of God is holy and it is strong. And it was because I remember praying, we prayed over my shoulder, and I remember meditating on Matthew chapter 21, verse 21. And it goes along the lines where it says that if you have enough faith, truly I tell you, if you have enough faith, you'll be able to tell a mountain to be taken up and thrown into the sea. And so I just remembered that, and I was like, okay, well, if Jesus is telling me that I can have so much faith that I can tell a mountain to be thrown into the sky and dropped into the sea, I was like, then he can heal my shoulder. And so my mom and I, we prayed over my shoulder, my rotator cuff. And I remember 2 weeks after my first MRI program, I went back and I had the big scan where they put me in that big machine. It was loud. And I remember coming out, and the doctor came out with my papers, and he said, hey, I don't really know how this is possible, but the tear is gone and it's now just stiff around it. You're going to be okay to play baseball.
Wow.
And yes, and so it was amazing. And I moved to
Mhm.
Tennessee. I make the baseball team, still part of the baseball team. It's amazing. You know, the Lord really took a place where I was on my own, and He said, hey, look, with me, we can make this happen. And
Yeah.
it was because I put my faith in God that He healed my
Mhm.
shoulder and gave me an opportunity not just to play baseball, but to also use it for His glory,
Yes.
Yeah.
which was the
Yeah.
best reason why. Yeah.
Are you a
And really
se
that physical healing was
Yeah.
just I think at that moment, it was a reminder to Ollie that he would know that God is who he says he is.
Yeah.
So when we come to him with our broken hearts, it's like kind of this internal healing that we need. If God can heal us physically, and he often does, then he can heal the things that are inside that are broken and hurting too. And that gives us a lot of hope.
It's beautiful. Are you a senior this year, Ollie?
I am. I'm in my
Yes.
senior year of high school. Yep.
Yes, and we've talked a lot about your mom because obviously she is a writer, you guys have done this together. I wanna know the role that a dad what has your dad done, and the role of a dad of what he can do to speak into if he sees that his child is struggling with anxiety, depression?
Mhm.
Yeah. So my dad, I would really say, became my best guy friend
Mhm.
that I had, which is funny because his first name's Guy. But
Like,
right, right.
super best friend guy,
Right,
yes.
right. No, but, my dad, it was very different. It's very different, the contrast between a mother and her son and a father and her son, because in the same way, my dad had been through the very specific things that I had been through. He gets me. He's a guy, I'm a guy, and being able to have him as a mentor when it came to certain things, like having the first girlfriend or trying to figure out, how do you ask a girl on a
Relationships.
date? Things like that. Like, there were things where I was able to go to him and he was able to give me help and give me examples from his life that also helped me. And I think for some kids, going to your father and opening up can be scary.
Mm.
Um, and luckily for me, my dad noticed that I was struggling and he empathized. He
Yeah.
came down to my level and he just said, son, what's going on? Like, how can I help you? He just asked me about the little things. And I started to just grow my relationship with my father. And
Mhm.
he became so strong that we talk about cars and our dreams for when we grow older. And, he just sent me a picture yesterday of this truck that he found that's in the rental area right now. That's a pre-used truck. And he was like, dude, this is my dream. And I said, dude, that's my dream. So it was like, yeah. So he just gets me. And being able to have my dad so close to me is amazing, because I know that there are a lot of people that don't even have a father figure in their life. And I take it as a blessing to be able to have my dad. And that's another reason why we wrote this book, is because I had people that were in my life that don't have parents, that are orphans. It's crazy to think that they don't get the help that I was able to have, because I couldn't do this on my own. And these kids, they're completely alone. That is extremely way more difficult than my case was. And so one of the reasons that I really wrote this book was because I noticed, oh my gosh, my dad is my best friend. My mom is my best friend. Like, I have these people who are pouring into me. Other kids don't. Let's both write something and speak
Mhm.
into these kids. Let's be those people for those kids that are looking, that are searching, that feel alone. And let's tell them that they aren't.
And man, God has blessed you and anointed you to do this, because I just hopped on your Instagram page and all I had to hear you say was, hey, I'm Ollie. And you start talking. I'm like, oh my goodness, you are like such a good buddy figure for anybody struggling. So it's such a good
Yeah.
fit. As we close out, still in this family vibe, you're very close to your brothers. I want you to tell me where you are in the birth order. And then I want
Sure.
you to tell me if you have a sibling that's struggling with like anxiety, right? And then it kind of puts a cloud over the family. Like, let's say everybody else is not struggling at that moment, and you've got one that's struggling, you've got this cloud in the family. What did your siblings do to reach out to you? How did your anxiety impact your siblings? So let's go there.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I am the oldest son. I'm the
So you are
firstborn,
the
which
oldest. Yes.
means I am the favorite because I was my mom's first. Just kidding,
Until
kidding,
the other
kidding,
boys.
kidding,
No, you know
kidding,
we
kidding,
love you,
kidding,
the other
kidding.
boys.
No, no, but I was my mama's first, and I take a lot of pride in that, because I get to be kind of the person who lays the first steps for my brothers. I have three younger brothers, Quinn, Oakley, and Quade. They are all three my absolute best friends. I
Yeah.
cannot say a bad thing about them. I love them so much. They are
I'm
my
gonna replay this for
football
you
I
buddies.
know.
later, Ollie. Just
Totally.
Of course.
Totally on
yeah.
Yeah.
loop.
No, but I've gotten really close with Quinn, I would say, as he joined high school, because he's been kind of starting to go through the things that I've been able to go through. And going through high school, I didn't have anybody. So when I knew, okay, I am an older brother to someone going through what I went through. And in the very beginning, I was like, man, I'm gonna help this guy out. I'm gonna help my buddy
Totally.
out. So I've been able to help him with that, and I've been able to pick up on little things that I knew was
Hmm.
being suppressed. I was able to, it was always those things where it was he'd come over and say, "Hey, Oliver, hey, can we hang out after school, or can we hang out after after practice?" And there were times where I'd say, "No, buddy, I'm tired, and I can't right now." And he'd be like, "Okay," and he'd walk away, whatever. But like I started to realize, like, that could be him reaching out, asking me for help, saying, "Look,
Yeah.
I'm struggling." That could be his
Yeah.
way of saying, "Hey, I'm struggling. I just need someone to talk to." And so I started to pick up on those things, and I was able to really
Hmm.
help out my brothers, because I was able to just give them room that I noticed to talk. And I feel like we have really done a great
Yeah.
job with my younger brothers.
And they
And
too, they've been there for
they
you
have
too, because
100%.
they will often say, "Hey, Ollie, I'm praying for you."
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
when
100%.
when they see like that, Daddy and I, Guy and I are dealing with something with Oliver in one of those moments. They really become calm and quiet. They are listening, and then they're speaking life into Ollie as
They
well,
are.
and praying for him, and that's been a beautiful thing. And for parents too, when you do have a child that is struggling, to be able to be really aware of the others, because sometimes they can get a little lost in the shuffle because a lot of your energy is focused on your child that's dealing with some mental health issues. And so just to be, again, intentional, I think that the key that's really helpful is that for the kid that's struggling and those who are the siblings, it's really more about quality time than quantity of time.
100%.
So just being very intentional with them, with the encouragement, and knowing that that you see them too, doesn't mean you have to give them the same amount of time, because the truth is sometimes one kid or another is going to need more of our time, and I don't want parents to feel guilty about that. And I don't want kids to feel like that means favoritism or anything like that. It really doesn't. They do understand if we can give them that quality time and encouragement, it goes a long way.
Yeah. Okay, we could talk for another hour. You guys are amazing. How could people find out more about you and more about your new devotional?
Yeah. So I have an Instagram. It's Walking with Ollie, and out there I post little inspirational videos. That's a super easy way to reach out to me, see what I'm doing, see what I'm up to. It's also how I reach my community and people around me, people my age. And then also our new book, You Are Seen, is going to be available. It's out for pre-order right now. It comes out this fall. We are super excited for this book to release. It something me and my mom say is anything we write is not just for other people, it's for us first because
Mhm.
the Lord gave us, the Lord put
Yeah.
these words on our heart. And my mom and I, this book has healed my mom and I. We read it every morning
Mhm.
and it has truly helped us
Me
because
too.
it's like, man, this author is amazing. And it's like, well, you are
That's
the
it.
author, you know?
Like, man,
And
you did a
so
good
like,
job when you said that. It's
yeah,
amazing how the
right,
words that you write for
right.
they are for
Oh
us
my
first. And
goodness.
so yeah, that's true. Okay, and you can find me, Amber Lia, just amberlia.com, and then the real Amber Lia on Instagram and on Facebook.
And we'll have all those links in the show notes. And I just got to circle back. So you are literally reading your own book
We are.
to each
We
other.
read it every day with the brothers. We just, and
Oh
that's a
my
tip too,
goodness.
because sometimes it takes a while for a student, a teenager to get into the habit of reading every day.
Yeah.
So I just don't leave anything to chance. And we just read it. It's short and sweet, but
Yeah.
powerful.
Yes.
And we just read it together in the morning as they're eating breakfast or
Oh my
scrambling
goodness.
around, even. It's
That's
totally okay.
amazing. I love that. And that's the way when you, dear listener, get the book, you too can read the book aloud while you're scrambling at breakfast and
That's
know you're
right.
being just like the authors. That's
Yeah.
like
That's right.
amazing.
It works for us.
Thank you so much.